Tango 1 at the top, we are at pop-up vehicle. 10-4, Tango 1, you have control. Tango 1 copy. Stand by. Stand by.
Integrity, passion, resilience. That's what this place was built on. That's what our community is founded on. Don't act like the example, just be the example. This is the home of the greatest fitness community in the world. We're trying to create strong, able bodies, resilient to injury with a gas tank to get shit done. If there's one thing from this podcast, it's about taking immediate action, find the problem, fix the problem. This is your opportunity. It's either a hell yes or a fuck no. It's that simple. You're doing that. The Tango 1 podcast. Now is the time to take action. Now's the time to do more and be more.
As you get the last bite down the throat there, see the swallow.
Right.
Yeah, we are live. So welcome to the Tango 1 podcast, everybody. I'm crazy pumped about this episode. I've been waiting for it for almost a month, and even more excited since I actually met the guy in person. I'm sitting here with Steve Nash. He is a teacher, trainer, and mentor. He's a former military combat arms officer, paratrooper, special ops commander, medically released and retired in 2009 after almost 25 years. He's now retooling as a multi-spectrum teacher, at which I got to witness. His ability is incredible to teach and to communicate. He's also an honor graduate from the U.S. Army Ranger School, and proud to call him like a friend now. It's been pretty awesome to watch you do this, and I'm so looking forward to this conversation. Steve's one of the most well-read, well-spoken people I've ever been around, so I'm super excited. And thanks for coming on today from up north.
And I know for me, I'm already having more fun than everyone, including you and all the people listening, because I totally take these live engagements. One of the reasons I teach. It's actually one of the reasons that I love the military, not because I loved it overall. And I discovered they didn't like me very much. But what I loved was the people, even amid the futility and the difficulty and the challenge and the realities of personalities and whatever. That was the fun part, because it's live and it's very complex and exciting.
Yeah, I can imagine. So like take us, maybe we can start there. I missed actually the first 6 hours of the course that you were running up at the OTAB.
Oh, that was the best part. Like, if only you'd done that, you'd be a totally different man.
So Traditional Excellence is the company that you run your teaching stuff under. And I didn't get any of the background, or I know you don't talk too much about it, but like you're a young man and you just decided to join the military. Like, maybe take me back to how that just kind of started.
Yeah, so for me as a kid, my dad was in the military, his dad, my brother, and my brother-in-law. So part of my family, military was the family industry. And my mom was a teacher. So as a kid, I dreamed of being two things, a soldier and a teacher. And I've always been lucky. I'm not that great at many things or anything, but I've always been lucky. I was able to be a soldier for almost 25 years. And then in a way, I was forced to leave, which I did not leave, but it probably saved my life, saved my family, saved my marriage, like physically saved my life for sure. And then I was able to drop into being a teacher, which, like, how lucky can I be? And originally when I left, I wanted to be a high school history teacher and football coach. I'm actually qualified now as a high school English teacher, and I've taught grade 6 to grade 12. But what I discovered is what I already knew about my own education, my time in school. I have a disruptive personality, and I fight process and systems. So in school, I fought the school a lot. I spent a lot of time in the office and in the hallways, and it never bothered me because I just thought that's the way everyone fought. When I finished school, I was lucky to finish, and I wanted to go to university. No one in my family had really done such a thing, and they weren't, like, we didn't have a lot of money, but we weren't impoverished. We didn't have money for that kind of stuff. So I needed to go to charm school, as I call military college. So I had to get there for free. And then I stayed for another 20 some years after that. And I was rewarded by many things, many exciting jobs and roles and positions. I was able to leave the military with a bachelor's degree and a master's degree. But my master's degree thesis is in close quarter combat, like how to train people and how to engage in high-end violence to success and to save the person. But as I discovered, that's not that useful when you go into the world of human beings.
Were the professors military guys, or did you just hand this into like my
Well, I did
typical
it as
professor
part-
I'm seeing in my the image I have of a typical professor gets a close quarter battle
Yeah.
thesis.
Well, and for me, I was lucky. So I did that master's program through the military, through Royal Military College, but on a year-long course, like the colonel's course.
Okay.
But when I did it, I was the only one there who didn't have a military supervisor for my master's program. So I was the only one with a civilian. He taught at Brock University. He was like a biokinesthetic learning specialist. So I was like, well, this is what I want to talk about. And he was really good because he knew nothing about the military. He knew nothing what I was talking about specifically with use of force and unarmed combat in high violence, but he knew a lot about how the human brain and the human body takes on kinesthetic physical skills, right? So I learned a lot, but again, it's not that useful when you want to be a grade 12 English teacher and that's your master's. So when I was lucky again, when I retired, I left my special operations unit. And then the next week I was at Teachers College at Queen's University in Kingston at 43 years old.
Huh, that's crazy.
If you have not done that, I recommend it. It was a really fast changeover, but I like change. And then I followed that up a few years later with a master's degree in education. And because I'm a glutton for punishment, I'm pursuing a doctorate of education right now.
That's wild. Like, I think the resume I read in for you kind of sells you short too. So like your special ops, you're into the teaching, you're teaching law enforcement units. I assume you're teaching you're kind of teaching everywhere. You're teaching in high schools. You said you were teaching at a university there or college?
College. Yeah.
Like that's such a wild, I've never seen a blend. I've been obviously to a lot of human performance type training with, the fitness background and my old background, but I've never seen anybody blend it the way you do. Like you're speaking on like the self-care, the taking care of yourself. You're speaking of like how to actually perform physically, but then you're also coming from such a education at it last week. And that's why I think those guys 2 weeks ago, whenever it was, that's why those guys were so, and myself included, were so like overwhelmed in a good way. Like it was like, man, this is the actual full package. And I've never heard it explained that way in all the courses I've taken.
No, and I appreciate that. And my struggle is I think I know some things, but epistemology, right? How do you know that you know? I'm always wary that maybe I'm wrong, or maybe I didn't read the right thing, or I'm mistaken. So I'm always trying to engage with that. And then I'm a believer that if you're going to teach something practically, use of force, physical fit, anything, you need to understand the proven theories of kinesthetics, the biology of the human being, understand psychology, sociology, and be able to combine them, and then in a way bring it to life. So when I teach martial arts and other things, but I start like, here's some theory of even why in martial arts, the process to a first level black belt or whatever is 4 to 7 years. That's because that's an apprenticeship model that is probably a couple thousand years old. That's actually the model for knighthood, European knighthood. 7 years, it's blocks of 7 years, which is 4 to 7 years is kind of the key. So that's what it takes to make a plumber, an electrician, like things that were gilded, and apprenticeship style things, a stonemason. And that's why university undergraduate degrees are 4-ish years. And then if you want to do a master degree in these other, because they're related to really old versions of teaching and learning. And the oldest form of learning, I think, for humans is apprenticeship. One nominal master and a few, 1-to-1 or 1-to-few over a long time, including periods where you don't see the other person. Like, so you spend 4 years with them, they become a journeyman, like a plumber. Now go away and be a plumber. And when you've done that for 3 or 5 or 10 years, come back to the master and we can help elevate you to the next level. Right? So there's a journeyman process in there as well, which is like a contraction. You're together and you do a certain time frame. Now you got to go away. And you think in your training, the special nature of which you train folks in your garage gyms is kind of that. Take in novices, take them through a process that allows them to train on their own successfully. And in a way, they should leave you and then come back when they've tried that and they're ready to go for it. It's like these next levels. And that's how academics are created. Again, the apprenticeship trades are created that way, and martial arts are usually that way, but there's a reason for it. If we think of, and I've taught, again, from grade 6 to grade 12, I've taught colleges and universities. But much of that system that we had from when we were kids in Canada, North America, is an industrialized conveyor belt of education. This is what you do in kindergarten. This is what you do in grade 1, and they bolt parts on as if you're a car coming through a factory. You're at the Ford or the GM plant. But that doesn't take into account the uniqueness of how every human being learns and experiences the world.
See, that's where I love hearing about the learning. We're homeschooling my 2 boys right now, and
wicked.
It's been just like honestly, it's been an unreal experience. At first, we were doing it just because we didn't want them to go to school with everything going on, but now it's like we're doing it because we love it, and it's been such an exciting thing.
I can imagine it's super engaging.
Oh my God,
and it causes you to grow.
Crazy. Yeah, I'm learning so much because I can't believe the questions. Like, I know there's questions in school, but these questions are very like kind of, I don't know, not self-directed, whatever the word would be. They're coming up with their own like interests, and we're kind of just, okay, you're interested in this for this little bit. Let's learn everything we can. And then it's just the evolution of that is amazing. But I'm curious with a guy like you, and so like martial arts, special ops, like a doctorate, how are you ever managing the time to do like one, like, did you like just basically block off periods of your lives where you became this?
No, I'm terrible at that. I'm terrible.
That's what I don't see in you. Like, I see a lot of myself in you, like, and we're very like, but like, how do you take the time to become a master in so many?
Well, part of it is, I like change. I like new things. I love learning. I like people, but I was talking about this to someone the other day. I'm not a thoroughbred horse. I'm a cart horse. So I can pull uphill. I can pull downhill. I'm not going much faster. Like, you know me, like I'm not built like anything. I'm the best example of true special operations, because I'm mostly just a middle of the road plain human being. And then there are some things that sometimes in some groups, in some environments, I can be quite good at. That, you know, we all have superpowers, and at the same time, we all have kryptonites, like from the Superman analogy. So part of it is understanding your superpowers, using them for your team. And, you know, I actually believe in taking care of society. I believe in defending people who cannot defend themselves from people who would do them harm. I'm a do-gooder, and I'm an idealist. So then I try to, in martial arts, I'm not very good. I guess I'm a slow learner, but I've been doing it for 41 years. So because I'm not very good, I've really had to learn about it, because I knew other people that were phenomenal, but it wasn't anything special to them, but it was to me, because I was like, wow, that's really hard. I need to spend 10 years on that. Everyone else could get it in 1 week. I spent 10 years on it. But that gave me a connection and a link. And in a way, because it takes about 10 years to get 10 years experience. There's no way to go faster, but if you're not paying attention, it might take you 15 years to get 10 years experience. Right? So I kind of build it on that way. And I'm just lucky. I was surprised I got into the doctoral program I did with Arizona State University. And it's a doctorate in education in leadership and innovation. So I'm looking at, like, how does the brain learn? What is learning? What is leadership? What is innovation? You know, so what? How does it work biologically, neurologically, psychologically, sociologically? How does it work in business? How does it work in chemistry? Like, I'm trying to look in all these different ways, because that's what floats my boat. It's just, I'm terrible with time. Like, I understand it. It's just not my thing. I'm terrible with money, so I'm not very good in business. And I hate process. So that was part of my challenge in learning myself, and part of my challenge in the military. And it's part of my challenge in this doctorate program, because I'm always challenging the profs. Why are we doing this? It's totally uninnovative. You're not giving me any leadership, and I want some, right? Like, so, but these become, at least they're animate discussions, at least we're not just boring ourselves to tears, doing nothing, like being humdrum.
It's crazy to think that, I mean, you keep going on and on, but like I've only been around you a short period of time, but and you don't come across the kind of person who would say that you are a master at anything, even though many of, like myself included, are viewing you in that regard. And I think maybe that's another reason why you're able to continue growing, because you don't accept that you are maybe where you don't put yourself where I think you are.
But I look at that and I think that's a really important idea, and it's related to leadership, because being a boss or being in command is about your organizational position. Being a leader has nothing to do with me. If you feel that I'm your leader, that's actually you. It's a subjective relationship, right? And that's how we look around and we're like, that's amazing or that's great. And sometimes that's true and sometimes it's not. But for me, like even in Japanese martial arts, like I center on Shotokan karate, but I do lots of martial arts. The idea, so if I see some people, they'll want to know what level I am, right? Because it's kind of like, how many chin-ups can you do, or what do you bench pressing? But it doesn't matter to me most of the time. I'm just training. I'm just kind of like you. And in Japanese, the word sensei does not mean teacher. It literally means born before. On the path of training, whatever your training is, it means that I'm slightly ahead by the coincidence of when I was born and when I started. It doesn't mean I'll always be ahead of you, because you might be better and just pass. And that's part of my role as a teacher and a trainer and a mentor. I always look at, and I'm lucky to have a network of sort of 60 or 70 people, many who I've known for a long time, and they're quality people that I can interact with and rely on, and vice versa. But some of the folks come to me, they want to do this role. They want to be in policing. They want to be in special operations. They want to be a helicopter pilot. They want to be fit, whatever it is. I don't really care. I care about who they are, but I don't care what their level of performance, what they want. I try and help them. And I mentioned this on near the end of the course we did with the OTAV and the tactical police officers, was my real goal in the end is to put people on my shoulders and push them as far away from me as I can. Like if I can stand them on my shoulders with what I can give them, and I push them away and they grab the lowest rung of the ladder of what they want to do in life, I've been successful. But that means they will climb away from me. I might not see them for years. And that at first that was hurting me, because I had a selfish need to have them tell me something or stay connected. But I discovered that's about me. If I actually want to help someone, I need to help them. And you'll see that with your kids. The hardest thing with your kids is you love them and you're like, hey, if we just all lived in the same house all the time, I'd be totally happy. But that's unfair to them. So their happiness and their success means they will leave you.
Right. I'm actually experiencing that more with team members here at the garage gym than I am than I did with the police, I think, because I get these young, like, like kind of like you,
fire breathers.
Those are a couple of young guys that are helping you guys out all the time. So guys who are younger than me that come in here, they bring all this energy, and I love hanging out. They make me younger for a little while, push me in the gym and push me like in other ways, because they're constantly challenging you. They're challenging you in the in your meetings. They're bringing that to them. Then they're like, I give them the reference. They get hired in one of the special services, which is why they come to me, right? Which is why they come train here, and then they're gone, and it's like, hey, how you doing? I want that kind of feedback, and I got to realize that that's for them to grow on their own.
That's right, because each of us, I'm a high needs, like I'm a blue in true colors. I try to be an I in DISC, and I'm not an A type leader. I'm a B type, because A type is task focused. I'm people focused, so it's a superpower, but it can be a flaw, because I love the engagement. But oftentimes when I work with youth at risk, I had to remember that my desire to work with them is to help them so they never need to see me again in their life. It's not about me. It has to be about them. Like if their life is a tragedy and I can nudge them, I'm the department of nudge, right? Little changes, nudge, 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 nudge. And if they're successful, there's one, I'm thinking of one youth that I worked with for like 7 years. And for a while I was seeing them every day, at least 5 days a week, if not 6 or 7. I'm trying to help. Their life is tragedy. But now I hardly ever hear from them because they're successful. That's the win. Maybe I won't hear from them for 3 years because they've finished college. They have strong relationships. They're just out there living their life and being successful. That's what I should want. Right. And that's one of the things I had to learn. That's why you got to push them away. And their ladder is their decision. We do, will they come back, or I haven't seen them, or did I waste energy on them? Well, and that, to me, that becomes the upfront decision by you or by me as a trainer, as a mentor, that there are expectations like of behavior and intention and character that you're trying to make sure so you don't train the wrong people. But once you've decided the right people, then I'm like, well, it's just an investment. I pour the investment into them. They take what they can and they go and invest it in their life.
Yeah, I think that's a great way of looking at it from the mentorship stuff. And I know my team, if when they listen to this, they'll hear a couple. I already used a couple of your lines.
All right.
That I love, like the superpower and kryptonite one. But one that I'd love to hear a little bit more on, or I think people get value from, is your precision versus accuracy is one that I've been using a lot here. And then the mentorship was actually a great one. Like bullying and leadership or mentorship are kind of similar. I think those are,
especially for males.
I love those.
Especially for males.
Yeah, I worked with a group of guys yesterday. And it was what you said in that course. I'm like, man, this is exactly what he's talking about. I never knew how to kind of say it before. So that's why I love learning from other people.
Yeah. Well, and this idea of like the mentorship, bullying and mentoring from an outside source, third-party eyes can look the same. So in a military and in other things, you see the way I do it. But Jim and the other folks that you saw, like, they know me quite well. The newest person in that group was Nate. So he's known me for like 7 years.
Okay.
Jim has known me for far more than 20. And Ryan has known me for 16 years. And they know a lot about me. They've done a lot of things and seen me in different environments. So if sometimes as an outside observer, it seems I'm a bit forward, or I'm a bit unkind, or whatever. What I try to do is develop a network where we can accept everything. Because the first premise is, I love you and I care about you and I will never let you down. Because if that's the first premise, then I can take anything. And I had this discussion recently doing a panel discussion about equity, diversity, inclusivity, which is a hot topic. And someone else in the panel, much smarter than me, suggested that in powerful organizations, there's never conflict and you never offend anyone and whatever. And I said, well, I don't know very much, but I disagree. Because in the most powerful, high performance teams I've been in, the entry is so high and the relationship is, I will save your life, I will save your family, I will never let you down no matter what happens. Like, that's the baseline. So then whatever we say to each other is inconsequential compared to that. And I won't use unprofessional words, but I know some. I could say, hey, and use a derogatory term. And if you were offended, I know that there's an unprofessional level, but we should be able to talk to each other any way we want if the basic premise is, I love you, I care about you, you can trust me, and I will never, ever, ever let you down. That's the most powerful bond that humans create. That's what we seek in life, in our most intimate circles. Like, who would you defend with your life? Who would you break all the rules of your life to save? Those are special. So in that group, it's not that you don't offend each other, it's that offense is not offense. Because the first premise is so strong. That's why special operations selection is a true equity invitation. Because I believe special operations is fully diverse, fully equitable, and fully inclusive. Because the boundary is the same for everyone. Show up, pony up, show us that we can trust you with our lives. Now that you've done that, we actually don't care if you're purple or pink or you have a glass eye and a wooden leg. Because the boundary, the entry level boundary is so high that now we're all in. And it's very difficult because it's certainly discriminatory. like in Canadian Special Operations for like JTF2, selection screening weeds out about 90% of the applicants. Screening, just basic, let's check your file. And then the people who make it through there, less than 8% make it through selection. So now that's 8 out of 1,000. That's highly discriminatory and biased, but it is not biased on gender, sexual orientation. It is only biased on the bona fide things that you write down. And the 5 things are, it's difficult because we might say, like in selection for tactical teams, we might say, well, can you shoot? Can you do chin-ups? And can you lay in the dark in the rain? I don't know, like that. But I look at, for me, the 5 things that we're actually looking for in Canadian Special Operations, and what I look for in my teams are, number 1, do you really, really want to be there? 2 reallys at least. Number 2, can you be relied upon to do things individually without any supervision? 3, can you be relied upon to operate in a team as a functioning positive team member with oversight? And can you accept critique, criticism, and discipline?
Big one.
Maybe the biggest one, better than skills that you arrive with, can you learn new things? Because I really don't care how good a shooter you are, because I'm going to retrain you on a method that is going to change your whole concept on, or not just shooting, but anything. And the last one is, are you a good person by character and intent? And the last one is the hardest to validate because we work on our character our entire lives. But another thing that used to be in my training site from a Japanese sort of proverb is, character and intent must come before skill. And any failings in the first 2 cannot be corrected by exceptionalities in the skill. Because I know many people who are highly skilled a-holes who are selfish, and I would never want them on a team, and I wouldn't want them near citizens because they're highly skilled, but the wrong person, wrong character, wrong intention. And for me, like looking as an outsider of policing, and you heard me say this to these tactical officers, as a citizen, I demand that you're the best human being that we could find. And then now that you're a good human being with good intention, we can train you to do anything. Because any monkey can be taught how to shoot well enough to pass a shooting, literally. Just time and patience and skill development, like a physical skill. But if you're really good at shooting and you're a terrible person, or you're selfish, or you have poor intention, then the predictability of something going wrong is very high. So like when you think of, the challenge becomes, skills are easy to look at. Wow, they're really good at that. They can do 50 chin-ups. You see how fast they run? They're naturally strong. And then the challenge becomes, like if you think of your gym contacts, and because what you run is not just a gym, it's a house and an academy of a special type of life apprenticeship is how I view it. That's what you're providing. The center is some things you do in the gym, but the gym is merely your academy location, your schoolhouse, where you teach a bunch of things. And then that's why, again, if you are the master of that group, and you are, because it's a relative positioning, then you have to have the highest level of character. You have to have the clearest view of your intention in you, because you're gonna transpose that on many people. Even when you're not trying to, they're gonna read it. Right? And that becomes the challenge in many organizations, Canadian military, when they have failings of character and integrity and honesty at the top, it poisons the well.
Yeah, let's actually, if we go there, because I had a friend reach out recently about looking for advice on how to handle the words. What are the words people use these days? Toxic or like just like basically a shitty supervisor, like how to handle a shitty supervisor. What would you? It's kind of some advice there.
Well, it's hard,
especially in our worlds, in the world of rank and structure, like my own world, your
hierarchy,
world, right?
Strict hierarchy, and rock, paper, sergeant, or rock, paper, you know, I used to play rock, paper, colonel all the time and lose. Then I was a colonel and it was good. But then I discovered there's another game called rock, paper, general, and I lost every time, even if I had scissors or dynamite. Like I still lost rock, paper, general. But part of it, so there's a couple aspects in that. One, toxic is, I think, overused.
Yeah.
Sometimes people say it's toxic because they don't like it or they're not being rewarded. And I want to say sometimes that's correct. And sometimes I say, stop being selfish and a crybaby. Because everything in the balance, right? What's in the middle? And if you have a poor boss, maybe they're good at something else that you don't see. And maybe your desire to have leadership from them is not why they were promoted. Maybe they're a great manager, or they have some other thing that the system above you needs more than you need. And the one that I mentioned to students on all kinds of different training is, in the worst case, be a leader to yourself. Try to never let the words or deeds of others be your reason for failure or your reason for being like a shitty police officer. Because you own it. And you met Nate in our group, and I don't know if you saw, but he received this award, right, for dealing with a very difficult situation. Guy coming at him with an axe, who also might have hurt some people in his family with an axe. And Nate got this award. He didn't really think he should have, because he just thought he was doing his job. But he didn't shoot the guy. He didn't do whatever. He was patient. He was professional. And he was able to do this thing that's very special. But it didn't mean that all his bosses appreciated it. It didn't mean that all of his bosses said good things. It didn't mean that his peers appreciated. And as I told Nate, it doesn't matter. What do you believe you should do? Because, and you know, as a former police officer, that's most of the job. What am I going to do in this situation right now? I'm the only one here. There's no one else here, and no one else can help for at least 20 minutes. So I've got to. And that becomes very powerful in that realm of, if you believe you're in a toxic situation, you believe that your leader, your boss is not leading you, first, be a leader to yourself. Square your own shit away first. Tighten yourself up. And seek other perspectives, because you could be wrong. And if you're really lucky, you can actually inspire your boss and help teach them, mentor them on being a better boss to you. And I know that sounds odd because that's their role. But if you are truly going to be a leader in and of yourself, that's where it starts. Right? Like you start with your behavior. At the center of your life is you. Who else is responsible? If someone, I have a bad boss, therefore, okay. And in a way, if you only have a bad boss once in a while, you're like lucky. And I was also lucky because I had what I would consider some poor bosses early on. And I had to figure it out. And then later, when I encountered others, I'm like, well, they're just different versions. But I'm sure that maybe many people considered me a poor boss every day in some way. Because I'm only who I am. I'm only good at what I'm good at. I try to service lots of people, but I'm often unsuccessful. And indeed, that's how we learn. Like failure, in order for human beings to learn, we need to make mistakes, fail, and the more stinging failures we have, the quicker we learn. We learn instantly. But if we do things right or get 100% or get applause, we will generally carry potentially a false positive to disaster. And you think of in policing, every time something good happens and the bad guys are stopped, everyone claps. But the bad guys that lose, anyone who loses their life, like if you're, I don't know, I call out anyone, if you're a drug dealer, as soon as you get arrested and you lose your entire livelihood, and you lose everyone you care about, and you lose your freedom and all your money, like you get serious. You are ready to change right now because you had a failure. On the other side, if the other side was successful and they're clapping, they're now missing the opportunity to change. Right? And in special operations, one of the other mantras, it's change all the time. Because if we're successful on the mission today, the people that are declared bad people by the lawfully elected government, because they choose who's good and bad for us, the bad people have already changed. Like they're either dead, captured, lost an arm, a leg, lost all their lost some. So they're hot in innovation, move forward. And that's why our side never slow down and never rest on our laurels for 1 second.
Yeah, I think that's one of the greatest features of any, like with the special ops guys or with the tactical guys, is like that, and girls, I should say, is when you approach them with a new tactic. I find that they're so receptive to actually kind of, considering it, taking some of it, all of it, none of it, but like actually considering it. I that's what we're trying to consistently bring into my business. Sometimes it's a struggle. I mean, I worked with a business yesterday in a little coaching gig, and there was, 1 or 2 people that were very, very reluctant to apply or even, try to consider a new system. And that's always been as a holdup.
And think about it, when part of this doctoral work I'm doing, the sign of true innovation, like a true change, true growth and learning, the sign that you're onto it is the response is a visceral no. There's no way I can do that. Impossible. That's how you know you're onto something. And anyone who says that's not the way we do things around here is, I usually call that, the words of a dying organization. That's not how we do that. Because if it's live, you're like, why would you say that? Maybe we should try that. We implement part of it. But the resistance to change is normal because change is stress for humans. So this idea of leadership, I believe, is the foundation of leadership is emotional trust relationships. Subjective, human to human, emotional feelings. And if people trust you with that, now they will take on a stressor for you to change. If that doesn't exist, they will tend to button up and defend everything they believed up till then. And even like, think of the work that you do in enabling people. And in a way, part of what you do is just basic physical fitness. But brackets, it's one of the most important things that we can do in our own lives that most people don't. And at first, what you're bringing them is something totally different. So that's a danger point where they can offer. To me, the next danger point is when they really love it, like they love it too much, and they want to, get a haircut like you and dress like you, and I'm only going to train in the Tony Smith garage gym way and whatever. And you're like, whoa, that's too much. Like, because it's Goldilocks, right? That's too much and that's not enough. Where's the balance? Because we learn in the balance, in the wobbly area. And otherwise, I'll give an example of like a CrossFit, which I like, until it becomes really weirdly cult-like. And everyone wants to know what your WOD is. I'm like, what's your WOD? I'm like, okay, you need to stop the odd lingo of your small tribe. And then when you have to call everyone out, because the basis of CrossFit was, when it started, take the best of all different things and continue to innovate to bring in new things. But as soon as you commoditize it and make a corporation of it, your marketing has to separate you from them. So we're awesome, and anyone that's not us sucks, which is a normal us and them human requirement. But then that could mean that you're stifling your own innovation because you love yourself. And it's in special operations, working with them, they have a motto of agility of thought and action. But they're also relatively insular. So not to be too unkind, but my questions is, prove to me that you're agile of thought and action. And don't just tell me that it's it has the special operations sauce all over it, therefore it's great. Because that means that your organization loves the smell of its own farts, because they're garage gym farts. They're are those special operations parts? They're so much more powerful than just conventional standard parts. But at a certain point, that's nonsense. You're like, wait, there are things to learn from everyone. And the only thing that makes you special is your desire and commitment to always considering things. As soon as you say, hey, the 10 fundamentals of garage gym, put them on the wall, those are it, follow those, you're good. Well, fundamentals are useful, but not in and of themselves. Because then what you believe in is then just made into a list, not a live activity, like interactive, which I think is your specialty. It's live interactive. But it's hard for humans to understand. They're like, well, what are the, Tony, you're a master fitness trainer. What are the 10 things I need to do to be super fit? You're like, well, okay. So the 2,000 things you could do, or the million things you could do, but what's the 10? One, be fit. Okay, well, that's a billion things. And even the definition of fitness is a complex idea. So writing humans like simple things. Is it good for you or not? My grandson always asks, you know, I'm eating this. Are donuts good for you or not? I'm like, well, it depends. Are you going to have one a month, or are you going to have 100 a day? Is orange juice good for you? It depends. Are you going to have one sip a morning for citrus, vitamin C in your system? Or are you going to drink 100 gallons of it? Because anything, that's the Goldilocks. Anything to the extreme amount will kill you. Anything to the zero amount can kill you. Sunshine, zero sunshine can kill you. Too much sunshine can kill you. No water for 3 or 4 days puts you in a coma. Too much water gives you hyponatremia, which starts to drown your system and has almost the exact same results as no water. We see these things happen in life because sometimes if something is good for you, more must be better. More intensity, more. Like if high intensity interval training is good, I am going to do it until I have a massive heart attack and die. Well, that doesn't make sense. Like stretching or warm-ups are so good, I'm going to stretch so much that I have a negative effect on the elasticity of my joints. Well, that's not what you want. I'm going to do chin-ups so much that I totally damage my shoulder and can never do a chin-up in my whole life. Well, that doesn't make sense. So I always think like part of your role, like my role, if I'm mentoring and guiding, is to take people to the middle path. Like that's not enough. That's too much. Come down towards here. Sustainable over the long term. And I've been lucky that physically I was pretty good until I was about 38, 39 years old. And then the wheels started flying off. I had knee surgeries. When I was 43, a doctor told me that if I didn't change my life, I'd be in a wheelchair because I have crushed vertebrae in my spine, crushed vertebrae in my neck. Because when you're young, you don't care. But if I could go back in time, ironically, I would do a little bit less fitness training so that I could do more now. Because you pay the price for everything you do and everything you don't do.
Right. That's a good way of looking at it. And you always talk about the ups and the downs of that fitness, but it's not actually a down, it's recovery, which allows you to go back up, whether you're
which
training.
Is the difference with high-end athletes. Olympic athletes and professional athletes do not train more, they recover more and better. That's the difference between an amateur and a professional athlete, because a professional athlete is told, like in the NFL, the game is over, you're gonna hydrate, you're gonna drink 2 liters right now or 3 liters, because we just weighed you before and after the game. You were down 3 kilograms of fluid. Drink right now. Stand there and drink. Now you're gonna shower. Now you're gonna eat. You're going to go to sleep at this time. Tomorrow morning, you will see the chiropractor, the physiotherapist. You will go in the ice bath, because we in the NFL, because they play weekly, we have 5.5 days to have you be the most healthy person we can make you from your injuries sustained yesterday to put you back in the game. So, you know, part of, as you do as an oversight and a professional trainer, part of your phenomenal skill is in helping people train. And I suggest the next part, the next ongoing development is, can you help them recover? So that their training almost never hurts them. Because training has to hurt you in order for you to get stronger. You get micro tears. You don't get stronger in the training, you get stronger in the recovery.
Absolutely.
You gain resilience from the healing, which is the same as and it's the same in physical trauma through training, or an injury, or cognitive emotional trauma in your life. It's the same thing. You get stronger by getting through it, but you have to heal and recover.
And your injuries are from not just fitness, right? They're from a little bit of the chaos of the world you used to live in,
Well,
right?
as a paratrooper, I jumped out of airplanes for a long time, and many of my injuries are from a single jump when I was on exchange with the British Army with 3rd Battalion of the Parachute Regiment. I had a hard landing at night on a roadway, which has no give, like a paved road, with my gear on, with 150,
Ouch.
200 pounds of gear strapped onto my body, trying to figure out where you are in the dark, and then you hit a roadway. And most of my long-term injuries are from that one event. So you got to pay the price for everything.
Yeah, I was
You gotta
telling
pay
my
the
son.
price.
My son was asking about parachutes for some reason. I said I met a guy last week, and I told him your story about landing in the shit.
Oh yeah, that saved my life.
He
That's,
was
yeah.
like, he's like, what? He's like 7, right?
Oh,
He couldn't
that's how you
believe
know
his
I'm
story.
lucky, right? But think of that, right? So that's a true story from my life, north of Rockville, on a drop zone called Rockfield. I should have known. Why is this drop zone called Rockfield? And I was with the 2nd Airborne Commando in the Airborne Regiment. It was in December. The ground is frozen, but there was almost no snow, so it's like concrete. And we were off course. We came out in the dark. I had some twists in my parachute, and we're over a farm. And I end up over top of a building, which you're not supposed to be. And as I got close to the roof of the barn, I lost lift because the air turbulence takes it away. So now my parachute is beside me, and I know that I'm like 40 feet from the ground. So in 1 second, I'm going to hit the ground and I'm going to be paralyzed if I'm alive, or I'm just going to be dead. So I'm thinking that, but I landed flat on my back in a massive pile of cow manure. So whoever God is, I don't know how it works, but they clearly have a good sense of humor and they love irony. So maybe my last thoughts were, whoever God is, sorry, I don't talk to you very often. Could you just save my life? And God's like, oh, okay. Snap their finger, put it under me. And I think it's a lesson in life too, because when I got up and I was covered in cow poop and we were training, so for days on end, and it was cold at night, so it froze onto me like a big frozen coating of poop. And in the daytime, when we're moving around, it warmed up and it would get wet and soak into my uniform, which I didn't change for 3 or 4 days. Like so, but what am I going to complain about? Because whatever saved me saved my life. And I wasn't seriously injured there. Like, I don't think I got hurt at all. But then I could complain because we like to have things, but I'm covered in poop. I'm like, well, okay, the soldier thought it was the funniest thing ever.
But you're alive.
And because I was their commander for a bunch of them, it's the best thing ever. The boss literally fell in a pile of poop. And because we're out training for days, he can't change. There's nothing he can change into. Like, this is like, it was like a special energy bar and a warm drink for them because they could enjoy my discomfort. In the end, it literally saved my life. That's, I've always been lucky. And I used to tell my bosses, like, I could fall off a building, land in a pile of shit, and find a diamond. And that, for whatever reason, I've always had luck in my life. I don't know why. Part of it is because I look for it and I kind of expect it. And for whatever reason, it shows up. Sometimes the luck is when something goes wrong, though, because I have to learn and survive it and suck it up.
Yeah, I'm a firm believer good things happen to good people. So maybe that's it. Maybe it's not luck. Maybe
well, I don't know. Or maybe I don't know, maybe God takes care of fools. I don't know.
Maybe.
I don't know all the rules, right? I'm just lucky that sometimes they favor me for whatever unknown reason.
So one more question, or maybe 2 more questions, but one I wanted to ask you is like, you talked about U.S. Army Ranger School, and I've always, read books about it and the challenges there, but what was there a particular challenge being a Canadian guy and then doing some, you did pretty well there, I think, from what I've heard. Was there a challenge to that, being a Canadian guy, being in the U.S. Army school?
Yeah. For me, part of the challenge was I was the only Canadian or the only non-American on my course. So first, the idea is we started with 428 people, or 429. 428 were American, right? I'm just a foreign national. And literally, the US military is good for many things, but literally the fact that I'm from Canada, I met many people there that had never heard of it, didn't really know where it was. Like, and it's not because they're illiterate or whatever, it's because they're focused on their own country. But it was interesting going into a different way. And although part of it, have you seen the movie like Full Metal Jacket with the Marines and that guy can go off? So some Americans are like that, Ranger School instructors. And I was like, wow, that is interesting. But one of the things that I noted early on was the American military doesn't swear very much, not the same way as the Canadian military. And in the Second World War, the rumor is that General Montgomery, who was overseeing part of the Canadian Army, he was the British general, but he had Canadians working for him. And he said, if we remove the words fuck and frontal from the English language, the Canadian Army would be both speechless and immovable, right? Because they're notorious for swearing. But when I noticed that, I was like they raise their voice and they do whatever and do standard things, but they do not drop the F-bomb. They don't drop the C-bomb. They don't say things like that I might be prepared to say. So then I had this like new power to drop a bomb, and it startled them. But I was very lucky that the main thing at Ranger School is to not get hurt. It's pretty arduous in many ways. I think it's not rocket science, but on my course, it was 68 days. And you do 4 days at the start in like a camp. And then you start patrolling and you patrol 15 or 16 days at a time. On my course, we had a 2-hour break and a 6-hour break. Like where you got a haircut, did your laundry, had a shower. The rest is game on. You don't sleep in a room at night.
In the whole 68 days?
Yeah.
Well, oh my God.
The last 64 days.
Wow.
And then when you do, because it was in the mountains, in the desert, in the jungle, and an urban phase. And in the mountain phase in Dahlonega, Georgia, in the Appalachian Mountains, near where they filmed Deliverance. Seriously. But there you get some extra sleep because you're doing lower mountaineering. You're doing mountain operations on ropes and stuff so you can fall and get hurt because they have a safety parameter. But the main aspect of that course then was, in my course, we only graduated like 29 out of 429. Mainly because we had snow in 3 of the 4 phases. So mainly it's a gutted out. It's normally a combat leadership course, and they use sleep deprivation and food deprivation to stress you. Make you, and you only have a number, so you're like a prisoner of war. And that's not to hurt you, it's to strip away the facade of who you think you are. And after I'd lost, because on the course I lost like 43 pounds, and you really are a subset of yourself, but that's what they're looking for. And special operations selection does the same thing. Strip it down to who you really are, where you have no false whatever, where you're pretty well about to be in tears at all times, like you're a total basket case. Now can you perform? Can you patrol? Can you do live fires? Can you jump out of an airplane? Can you do helicopter operations? Can you do these things? Hey, you asked that question. I have the picture. You ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Oh, you have to host,
I have to
enable me.
How do I do that? How do I do that?
I don't know. There's new skills.
Oh boy. Here we go. Put me on the spot here. More. Make host. There we go. There you go. You should have it.
So, yeah.
Let's
So there it is. Can you see that? Let me zoom in.
Yeah. Where are
there.
you?
And I should be, so on here we have 80 some people because only 29 of us are from the original because the course is broken into 4 phases. So most of the people in this picture were recycled. They failed another phase and joined our course.
Wow.
Here, so let's zoom in. Everyone looks so happy. So there's me as the only non-American on the course right there, right center.
Look at that. Look
And
at you.
so I was the honor graduate here. This guy, center now, Robert Quadra, he was on the course at 39.
39 years old. Oh my God.
And he was already a special forces guy, a Green Beret. But I was lucky that he was my sort of wingman on the course. And the other guy down here, right here, Guy Patterson, the left the left-hand guy with the banner in his hand. Guy
Yep.
Patterson was a clerk, like a secretary, a military clerk at the Ranger Regiment as a private. And he was my other kind of wingman. So we were the top 3 students of that course. How lucky is that?
Yeah, that's outstanding. That's awesome.
And all these poor guys, right? Like I'm just trying to, and we had a bunch of Marines on the course. We had some Navy SEALs. Not everyone made it, of course. I'm just looking. There was one guy. He was like a monster when he came on the course, a Navy SEAL. But I can't find him now. But he must have lost like 60 pounds of hard muscle on the course.
Man.
Right, but in the way, like, who cares? It's just a challenge. It's just a thing. As one of the things they say in the U.S. Army, it ain't nothing but a thing, huh? It's just something. But because humans, each of us creates value in our own life. But because we create value doesn't mean it's valuable to anyone else, and we might be mistaken.
Right.
So, and it's one of the challenges in organizations and policing and a military, in any large organization. People around you are trying to tell you what value is and pat you on the head when you're a good person and put their foot in your arse when you're not, right? To change your behavior. It's a manipulation, socialization process, and most of that is good. But over time, and there's a likelihood that part of your decision to leave policing as part of this is over time, you gain enough of yourself to know that you know, and maybe it's not the same as what they're telling you is right or wrong.
Yeah,
That becomes
sums it up.
But so think of the apprenticeship model, right? The first 7 years in any organization, that first 7 years, you probably need the organization more than they need you because they're teaching you everything, right? In a military, that's like a fundament. It's like an apprenticeship time. The second 7 years, so from 8 years to 14 years, you're kind of getting your legs under you. And by the end of that, the second level of 7 years makes you a master. To stay beyond 15 years is difficult because at that point in time in many groups, you are worth more to the organization than they are to you. And that's often the separation. And then when you get to 20 or 21 years, you're at a new level, right? So to be a chief or whatever, you usually need to stay like 30 years. And there's a certain value in that, but you have to give up something to stay longer. And I don't know, I don't want to, belittle or misjudge anyone, but generally speaking, people that I know in the military that spent 30 or 35 years there, they don't look that great when they leave. And in policing, think of people in policing at 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. What do they look like in your imagination at 35 years?
That's so great.
What do they look at 38 years? Like
Yeah.
they or 41 years and they retire. What's their life like? Sometimes it's tragic because they've expended the prime of their life and more. So what do you have left? So as we discussed, part of the value in leaving before then is you still have some juice.
Right.
Like
Absolutely.
you're not just an orange that's been squeezed over and over and you're laying on your side like a dry husk of your former self.
Yeah, for sure. And you know what? It's been 7 years since I opened the gym. Like
Yeah.
I've been retired for 3 or 4, but I'm finding that right now that I'm feeling like there is the next little twist in what I'm doing here has to happen. And hence
in
how
7
we met
years,
and
in
hence
7
how
years,
everything is going on now.
and the natural timing is 4 to 7 years. Because 5, you're kind of, or 4 or 5, you're getting your feet under you. Now you're kind of approaching a new level of looking at it. And that is the same as in formal academics, like a bachelor degree, a master's degree, a PhD. It's the same in martial arts. The difference between a first level black belt, which is really just a beginner, a journeyman who knows some things, to a, let's say in Shotokan karate, a third dan, which is a sensei. That's a 7 to 10 year block between my black belt and a third dan. And then the next level in many martial arts, like a 5th dan or above, could be called a master, but that's another 7 to 10 years. Like it's a fundamental. And I think in my experience, I've now been, I'm not very good at martial arts, but been trying to do my best for like 41 years. And I look back 20 years ago, and I also believe that there's like an anti-training and a training that come together. So at least half the training I did, I now consider anti-karate. It was the opposite of what I later learned to be more true and accurate, but I couldn't learn one without the other. It's the duality. You can't have antimatter without matter. You can't have resting without training. You can't have training without resting. You have, and these things sort of are together with tension, and they fight each other.
Yes, they do. Yes, they do.
Yeah.
And you never know which side's gonna win sometimes, right?
Well, and remember from the two wolves analogy, right?
Right.
You have a good person. It's the wolf that you feed the most. So if you feed the dedicated wolf as a trainer, you feed the mentor, not the bully. You feed the giving mentor, not the taker. And that's the challenge in business, because you got to take some things to have a business survive. You take money. You trade your ideas in a barter system for cash or goods. And at what balance? Because I'm a terrible businessman.
Yeah, that's
like I have fatal flaws. I'm like, oh, we should just do all this for free, or we should do this, or we should do that.
Yeah, I have the same struggles, man, the very same struggles. So I know that we were past our time because of the storm, so I don't want to keep you any longer. But I mean, this has been outstanding. I'm just truly honored to speak with you and to just be in your network at all in whatever way that is. I know you're muted there, but thank you for coming on the show today, for all the wisdom. I can't wait to have you back on very, very soon, because I feel like we could do this 10 times in a row and have a different conversation every time.
Yeah. So for me, I just want to say thank you for this opportunity. And the way that most of the best relationships in my life start are coincidental, because we didn't know each other. Someone suggested we connect. We then connect. Then we verify it by meeting, and we're like, whoa, okay, magic. There's juice. And for people to get out there and do that, not to just sit in their small place and only deal with people they always deal with, because that's not maximizing who we are. But I'm totally looking forward. I'm jazzed up about any collaboration, any.
All right.
Because I'm convinced we'll bring matches and gasoline, and we'll set it on fire in a way that other people can't, so that people look and go, whoa, what is this experience? Like, what is this thing that I could be part of and learn from and grow into? And then the relationship of all the people just gets stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger. It's like the myth of the red thread that I told you, right? That I got a while ago from a student from China that I had. So the first time someone gave us a little red thread, now we have more red thread. And you know Jim, and you know Ryan, and you know Nate who came, and they know you, and we know these other people.
Yes.
That gets so powerful that it becomes unbreakable.
Yeah, that has been the best part about kind of going out on my own, is that the red threads, they are getting kind of everywhere, and it limits opportunity, but it also gives you, like speaking with you the time when we weren't on the phone or we were just talking. Yeah. I mean, you lent me some stuff into some of my own struggles that I never thought about it that way. Like it doesn't have to be disorder. Like you can see trauma and not be a disorder, and like all that kind of stuff is just.
Well, no, I'm a firm believer, because I know from being in education now, we always have a name for everything. Humans love boxes, like the bricks behind you in your screen there, right? Like, are you this or you're that? Well, that's not how nature works. There's a full spectrum. And I have attention deficit hyperactivity. You can tell. But disorder, disorder is when it ruins your life. I have oppositional defiance. I don't easily take on bosses, and when I do, I punish them by asking them and challenging them and making their life difficult. But I will follow them to their death, to my death, right? But it's not a disorder. Disorder is when it's negative and it hurts you. Trauma is only negative when you don't heal from it and recover, because when we get hurt, if we break a bone in our body and we let it heal, it becomes stronger than it was previously. So trauma is helpful, but not when you're in the middle of it. It's later on when you heal from it, just like your basic training principles. Like, there is training and recovery. That's all there is in getting more fit for physical fitness, training and recovery. If you do one and not the other, it doesn't work. If you do too much or too little of either one, it doesn't work. So how do you balance that out? Because who will pay you to come in and not train? But that might be the most important thing you can sell them. And if you know people who train a lot, they tend to be overtrainers. They will hurt themselves unless you say stop it. And that's the difference with a professional athlete or an Olympic athlete and a pro coach. They say you will not train today. You will sit right there and you will stretch, or you'll go in the tub, or you'll do whatever. You will not train. And before the Olympic events, before the Olympics themselves, most athletes do almost no training for 14 days. They recover and stretch and visualize and sleep and get them ready, let their body heal up for the first time in 4 years, so that when the gun goes off, they're at the best possible part of their own sort of sine wave of performance. The challenge in life is you don't know what the event is, and you don't know when the gun's going off.
Yeah, that's very true.
And so in life, you always have to have something in reserve in your basic sleep and your basic nutrition. So you always have something waiting, another thing to give.
Yeah, that's a good lesson for first responders, because that is, like that was always the problem. Like I never knew, we sound old when we say this, when the pager was going to go off. And I never knew when the pager was going to go off, and you can't control it. So you had nothing in the tank
exactly.
when you showed up, and there's nobody else after you either. That was it. There's no people.
And the gun is about to go off. You don't even know the event, and you need to get the gold medal. Otherwise, you're a chump, and your team sucks.
Yes.
They're like, well, we don't even know what the event is. Well, let's defund the police. Let's give them less and expect better behavior. It's insanity. All right. So and if nothing else, I don't usually say much, but you got me out of my shell.
Whatever. Anyways, I'm gonna hit it here. We got that's over and out from this podcast. Thanks to everybody for listening. Please subscribe.
Now's the time to do more and be more.